Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we jump in, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a few different services, one of which is a Bitcoin savings account, so you can stack sats on top of your existing Bitcoin with their compounded monthly interest rate. You can also obtain a Bitcoin-backed loan, so you use your Bitcoin as collateral to secure a US or Canadian dollar loan. So if you're trying to get your hands on dollars, but you don't want to sell your Bitcoin because you're worried about potential price appreciation, well, this could be for you. And finally, if you are a huge Bitcoin bull, then their B2X program might be for you. This is where you can gain double the exposure to Bitcoin. So all of those, there's a link down below if you want to check them out. And actually, through that link, if you opt to get a Bitcoin-backed loan, they will credit your account with an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin. And secondly, if you're into Bitcoin, then privacy is important. And one of the things I use all the time is NordVPN. I use it on my phone, on my computer. What it does is it hides your IP address, it encrypts your browsing data, and has a bunch of other added benefits, one of which that I really like is unlocking geo-block content. So if you can't access a particular service, depending on where you are located in the world, well, you can turn on NordVPN, select the country you wish to be located within or appear to be within, and boom, all of a sudden that content is available to you. If you click the link below, there is a portal that takes you to a place where you can get 70% off. It amounts to about $3.49 a month, so pretty solid there. Now let's move into the news. So Bobby Lee, now he has been making the rounds on Twitter quite recently with this whole ballet wallet crypto thing, which is essentially like it's a Bitcoin, and there's some other options for other currencies, but a Bitcoin paper wallet is essentially what it is. So a paper wallet has an address that you can send Bitcoin to, and then it has a private key on the actual, in this case, it's a piece of either metal or plastic or whatever, and you can use that key to sweep the money off of the wallet. And he was getting a lot of shit from people on Twitter because they were saying this is a terrible idea, which it is, because you're trusting the company to make that private key for you and not keep a record of it anywhere. And while the company could have good practices, you never know if a rogue employee injects themselves into the situation and starts storing these and waiting for an eventual date where they get loaded up. So it's just all around not a great idea to have somebody else make your private keys for you. Not your keys, not your coins. And if more than one person has your keys, then potentially also not your coins. So anyways, he's also now on the news because he actually said that SegWit2x, which was an effort to fork Bitcoin and create a larger block size, but in turn install a bunch of different developers so that some of the largest companies in the space would have control over the trajectory of the protocol and how it moved forward, he now regrets backing that movement, which is refreshing to hear. So what did he say? He said that the failed hard fork attempt in 2017 was extremely dangerous and irresponsible. So the exact quote was, 2 years ago, I thought SegWit2x was the best path forward for Bitcoin. I've since come to realize that it was extremely dangerous and irresponsible to push for a contentious hard fork without replay protection, especially when there wasn't consensus. Mea culpa. Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin. Now, I am a little bit curious as to the timing of this, given that he just released this product that he would like people to purchase that has been making the rounds, and he's been getting a lot of shit from, Bitcoin maximalists that already didn't like the idea of him having backed this thing a couple years ago. So there was already a bitter taste in their mouths. And then he releases a product that is just the antithesis of kind of the ethos of Bitcoin. So maybe that could have something to do with the timing of him saying this, because it definitely got brought up when he released the Valet wallet. But anyways, I tweeted about it. I said, nice to hear. Still don't buy a Valet wallet, though. And that's pretty much what I think. Anyways, let's move on. So last we were talking a little bit about China, the president of China, and I misspoke. I said Japan in the video. I don't know why. I must have been reading another story and then minced my words. Anyways, the president of China last week was talking about what seemed to be a pretty favorable stance in relation to blockchain projects, and Bitcoin was kind of grouped in there. Well, not so much the case, and not surprisingly, he has gone on television it was about like an hour-long thing that he spoke on, kind of like a 60 Minutes-esque TV show. It was on CCTV1, and he went through a lot of stuff, but this tweet storm here kind of sums up a lot of it, and this is from Dovey Wan. She said, today, CCTV1 featured another investigative work of cryptocurrency. And she said the TLDR, too long didn't read of it, is cryptocurrency is an unregistered security, financial fraud, and an illegal Ponzi. So not great. He basically goes on to say that blockchain is good and cryptocurrency is not. He doesn't specifically call out Bitcoin, but all in all, it doesn't seem super favorable. He also refers to blockchain not being an ATM machine, as in it's not just a cash grab, that he's talking about the underlying technology, which I find funny because it's very difficult to separate the blockchain from Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin is working because of a number of different factors. Blockchain is just one of them. And so Dovey goes on to say, it's pretty clear to me China has no intent to embrace any public open cryptocurrency at all, and that's why it's always blockchain, not Bitcoin. Down the road, a nationalization of regulated cryptocurrency infrastructure is inevitable. ASIC, mining, and trading. So she's saying that they could eventually, actually she's saying it's inevitable that they nationalize everything. So that would be mining within the country, all of the ASIC production, the trading, everything, which in my mind would mean something along the lines of, hey, use our China coin, whatever their digital currency backed by the Reserve Bank there would be, the Bank of China, and that's that. They don't deal with anything else. Now, it is very difficult to, on a ground level, peer-to-peer, eliminate Bitcoin from person to person. Even some of the mining operations, it would be very difficult to get rid of because you don't know where they are, right? You have no idea, especially when it's remote hydro dams in rural China. It's pretty difficult to crack down on that, and the officials that get sent to those places often can just be paid off. But the mining pools, things like that, you could see some of that come under scrutiny from the Chinese government and eventually be nationalized. That said, people worry about centralization of mining and mining pools within China. You have to keep in mind that when you're talking about a mining pool is a group of miners that come together to put their hash power, their computing power together, and when one of them successfully mines a Bitcoin block and gets that reward, it gets divvied up to everybody based on how much they've contributed. When you're talking about a Chinese mining pool, you're just talking about the organizer of that mining pool being located in China. If that were to come under control of the Chinese government and they were to start trying to exert some sort of pressure on the Bitcoin network to act a certain way, individual miners that are contributing to that mining pool are located they're pretty geographically diverse, and those miners can literally point their hashing power at a different non-Chinese mining pool if they choose to. We saw this happen before with something called ghash.io. This happened in 2014, and they actually, a single mining pool was above 51% of the entire Bitcoin network. And what happened was miners voluntarily decided to point their mining capacity to different mining pools for the good of the network. Now, Ghash itself wasn't even trying to do anything malicious, but miners recognized that it was in the best interest. If you actually had a malicious third party like the Chinese government trying to exert any sort of forceful change on the Bitcoin network, of course miners are going to point their hash power elsewhere. But until that point, it's kind of a moot point, because either Bitcoin is working as it should or miners will go elsewhere. So anyways, all in all, I think that's why you're seeing a little bit of a dip in the price. People are, it pumped up the price recently when they came out and said, oh, we think blockchain is great, and people took that as, so is Bitcoin, and we're going to open up the floodgates. And now that we're seeing this news, we're seeing dips in price, although not that extreme thus far. Again, I don't know why I bring up price in these videos, because by the time they go up, things could totally change. But with that, let's move on. Now, this was a fun, ironic one. So last week we were talking about PayPal and how PayPal essentially cut off 100,000 plus models on Pornhub, and said that, hey, you're not allowed to get paid out anymore, which it was nothing to do with the legality of people uploading content to Pornhub and getting paid for their content and receiving it via PayPal. Nothing is illegal about that. It was just the morality police saying, no, we don't like it. And they can do that because, again, it's a private company. It's centralized. They can just say whatever the hell they want. But the ex-PayPal CFO just had his bank account shut down by Bank of America. And they didn't cite any explanation. So he said, after being a customer of Bank of America for 20 years, I received this notice today that they decided to fire me as their customer with absolutely no explanation. So they basically gave him like a few weeks to get his shit together and take out all his money, and that his accounts would be completely closed within 30 days, which is super funny because PayPal has come under scrutiny for the exact same type of behavior, closing people's accounts and freezing their assets without any reasons stated, just saying, hey, we're not going to service you anymore. And of course, Bitcoin Twitter was loud and proud saying, hey, this is what Bitcoin is for. Bitcoin fixes this. It does draw attention to the fact that people can't shut down your Bitcoin account. They can't shut down your wallet, especially if you're running your own infrastructure, if you're running a node, things like that. That even further insulates you from that type of action. And that's what Bitcoin is here for. So yeah, really, really interesting to see these types of developments. And every time somebody gets censored or shut down or their funds frozen, a new Bitcoiner is birthed. Let's move on. The number of Bitcoin ATMs worldwide has surpassed 6,000. And with that, obviously, tax collection agencies are taking note and worrying a little bit about that. So 6,000 ATMs across the world. Just to put it in context, around 3,900 of those are in the US. Here in Canada, it's around 700. Now, let's see here. About 9.3 is the number. 9.3 ATMs being installed per day worldwide. So it is growing considerably. Now that the rate of growth has come down from 2017, obviously, because there was a huge boom and everybody had money to toss around. It dropped from 117% to currently 51%. That's still pretty good. It's still a large rate of growth. Now, of course, with this, the IRS is going, well, what kind of money is flowing through these machines, what are the practices. So we have Criminal Investigation Chief John Fort. They're talking about ATM issues. He said, we're looking at Bitcoin ATMs and the ones that may or may not be connected to bank accounts. In other words, if you can walk in, put cash in and get Bitcoin out, we're interested potentially in the person using the kiosk and what the source of the funds is, but also the operators of the kiosks. We have concerns that as things tighten up here in the United States, that we are pushing people to foreign exchanges. We have to focus on that as well. So he's saying that he wants they're required to abide by the same know your customer and anti-money laundering regulations. He said, we believe some have varying levels of adherence to those regulations. So there are some ATMs where you can just plunk money in with minimal or no ID whatsoever. I believe in the States it's a lot more stringent. Here in Canada, it's pretty wishy-washy how you deal with that, but there is guidance and regulation coming forward for that. It's basically going to be anything over $1,000 you need ID for. But I'm curious how they're going to contend with that via the ATMs. Perhaps you have some sort of like an account that you sign up for in order to use the ATM, and if you use that account, but even still, they're going to need some level of verification, because if somebody, legally speaking, if somebody walked up to a machine and had 20 different accounts and the limit is $1,000 before you need an ID, but they're able to still use the machine without an ID for under that amount, well, they could be doing $900 all day long with unlimited accounts, right? So that'll be interesting to contend with. My inclination is to believe that you'll have some sort of an online account that you set up, or one that you set up at the machine that requires a type of identification, and there are cameras on those machines so they can see and verify that you are who you say you are. So it'll be like the selfie style that you do with online exchanges, and then you're limited within that framework before you start raising red flags of money laundering. But yeah, we'll see. Let me know what ATMs are like in your locale. What do you use if you use an ATM? Is it pretty easy, or is it pretty stringent when it comes to identification? I've heard some horror stories, but I've also heard some very easy in and out with cash stories. And lastly, for those of you that missed it last week, Bull Bitcoin, the company I work for here in Canada, launched Bull Bitcoin Prime, and that's for people doing large volumes of trades, anything above and beyond $25,000. And so what it does is it gives you direct contact, so like dedicated phone support. You have priority when it comes to settlement. If you want, then you get assistance with dollar cost averaging. Essentially, if you're going over 25K and you're doing Bull Bitcoin Prime, there are unlimited funds that you can put through there. So if you want to be doing millions of dollars, you can do that through Bull Bitcoin Prime. Lots of benefits in there. Plus, you get your handheld if you need it, and you also get an hour free of consultation with our partner, Verify. And these guys are just like a badass, really great educators that help you set up as much of an intricate setup as you want when it comes to self-storage. So these guys are awesome. So anyways, there was an article on Crypto News, and this is the French version of the site. So you francophones out there, if you want to read up on that, you can. Also, you can head over to bullbitcoin.com/OTC if you want to read into the program, because there's also a write-up there. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys had a great weekend. As always, like, subscribe, share. Always share. It's great to get new people watching these videos. If you want to help the show in another way, hit up either of the sponsors I mentioned, Ledn and Nord. Those links are down below. And as a third little bonus thing, check out Wasabi Wallet. It is great. It helps you break those links between you and your coins and add in some financial privacy, which is great to have because you never know what kind of prying eyes are trying to snoop on you and your transactions. So break those links, coin join. It's in your best interest. And other than that, if you really like what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin Lightning Network tip at my tipin.me page. And with that, I am out. Have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you tomorrow for your daily session.